Thank you for watching us on YouTube. But did you know that if you're on the go, you can get the full show as a podcast now? You can get our morning breakdown of the most important topics facing our country, news not being covered by the mainstream media, interviews with change-making progressives, and info on what you can actually do about all this. Search for The Damage Report on your favorite podcast app and subscribe so you know when new episodes are ready to go. Joining us now to help break down the situation with Brett Kavanaugh, potentially the future of his nomination, one of those fighting perhaps the most strongly against his nomination, Lauren Duca, freelance journalist, joins us on The Damage Report now.
Hi.
Welcome to the show. We're so glad to have you here. I'm sure you've been following, a ton has come out, even just this morning, about his nomination, what might happen with the testimony of Ford, and whether there will be a vote. In your view, since you've been following this so closely, what do you think should happen with his nomination?
It's hard because I thought these hearings should be delayed several days ago. Now that we have yet another development, I mean, to me, the hardest thing for senators taking a stand on whether these hearings should even continue is picking the reason why. You know, do they go with perjury? Do they go with sexual assault allegations? Do they go with the attack on Roe when they cough, Susan Collins cough, are allegedly pro-choice representatives? In the context of these allegations, though, and this moment, and how we're making sense of how we treat each other and what it means to rule over women's bodies, this is something we deserve information on, where it's not just I'm impossibly frustrated by how it's framed as, what are the ramifications for something that you did in high school, which is totally absurd on a variety of levels. One being that not all men are rapists, right? I'm fairly certain of that. And and two, you know, I think that what Brett Kavanaugh feels about how you should face ramifications for decisions you made as a minor is something we can look to his decision on the immigrant minor Jane Doe, who was seeking an abortion at 17 years old, and he tried to rule to stop that. So if that's something she was going to have to live with, I think that this is something we can investigate. And furthermore, this is not just about what the punishment is for men or for something at a pool party or high school, and the way those things are trivializing the situation is just gross, but this man is going to rule on the fate of women's bodies, and the way he treated this one woman's body allegedly is absolutely a factor in that, and more than enough reason to stop these hearings immediately.
Yeah, as you alluded to, there have been, it's sort of underlying a lot of the commentary from the right, but a few have been very explicit that, well, come on, in high school, everybody gets up to certain things, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And I just thought, maybe I went to a different high school than these people. It wasn't just, hey, remember that sexual assault last weekend? That was a hoot. But they seem to believe that is the standard experience for men. And in light of how the entire right and the media, the politicians have been responding to her allegations, you know, we're not in the early days of the Me Too movement. We've had a little bit of time where society hopefully would have caught up a little bit. Do you believe that the GOP, the right in general, has moved at all as a result of this journey that society at large has been going on?
No, I mean, I think that they've really doubled down in terms of refusing to subscribe to decency. And that's what's really terrifying, because, you know, there have been sexual assault scandals on the left as well. And among leftist kind of pop culture heroes and leftist elected officials, those people have had to accept the consequences for their actions, where you have, you know, on the right, President Trump is still president, and I don't even know, has Roy Moore conceded that race yet? Like, there's just an overall doubling down on deny and refuse. And I think the really frustrating thing right now is that you have to, you know, subscribe to decency to be held accountable to it. And this feels to me like another battleground. This is a battleground that will shape American life for decades, but it's also about what we're willing to accept from people in power in terms of the way they treat women. And I think we absolutely have to keep pushing. This is not something that we can just let slide through. And there are an uneven set of ramifications that have fallen out on this, but that's not the concern. The concern is pushing forward to a place where this kind of thing is not just a common item to be rehashed for all of these authority figures in our culture. I think we have to say no.
Well, wow. I'm
Sorry.
hashtag that. I'm totally fine with that. So look, the way that they've responded to her reminds me a lot. Actually, you brought up Roy Moore, how they responded to those allegations. There's not even the veneer of, well, we are really concerned about this. It's serious. We just question the timing. No, it's obviously false. We're going to destroy this woman. And what I wonder is, so you spent a couple of weeks on the Rise Up for Roe tour, talking with educators and politicians, activists. In that time, did you have a chance to talk to any women who are sticking by the right? Even now that we've been through this so many times where the presumption is that women are lying, and even if they're being honest, it shouldn't matter, we shouldn't care. How do they stick with that movement, knowing that there's so little concern for the lived experiences of so many women?
I'm not sure. I also though would like to mention, the idea, there's this big idea of like, suddenly this has come up. Suddenly he is up for the highest court in the land and this has come up. That's why. That's why Christine Ford is putting her entire life on the line. She's already being torn apart. A private citizen is waiting to be just ripped to shreds. And what we're seeing too is the level that we go to vet and pick through and demolish every aspect of an accuser's humanity, while the accused is protected at all costs. That calculus is disgusting. And I think that, there's the idea that I've just not, what accuser is there that has become really famous, that has had a bunch of opportunities? Where is that happening? I don't understand where that line of thinking comes from, but there are no opportunities. There is only pain and shame and more hurt. And I mean, I honestly thank you, Christine Ford. It's whether you believe her or not, this act comes at great risk to her. I don't know how you justify any woman, any person, frankly, standing with the GOP at this point. I mean, the levels of hypocrisy and the total lack of cowardice, especially in regard to this confirmation hearing, it would take so little for any given Republican senator to be an American hero right now. And they're just saying, nope, I don't take bribes. I don't know. Like Susan Collins in particular is so frustrating. I think she's such a great example of she was very happy to be pro-choice when she thought that Roe was a settled issue that she wouldn't have to take a stand on. And now to call extreme people power and public pressure a bribe, those are your constituents. Yeah. To say that you're not listening to that is to say that you do not deserve, the people who you represent do not deserve your actual representation. And overall, we have a Senate GOP that is refusing to listen to public will and is attempting to shove this thing through unabashedly before the midterms. And in given this information and doubling down on continuing to push for a vote, it's just becoming increasingly transparent. But that's what was going on, I think, all along.
I couldn't agree more.
You wrote something that I thought it was a pretty powerful statement. Just a simple sentence: reproductive rights are essential to equality. And can you break that down for us?
Yes, I think that this has been something that is lost in a broader kind of popularization of progressivism that purports to be obsessed with financial justice and then finds a way to dismiss abortion access as a social issue, which I find absurd. I think the most basic argument and most concise way to put it is having a baby costs money. I think that, to break it down a little further, there are plenty of states right now where a wealthy woman is able to obtain an abortion, has maybe access to childcare to watch the child she already has, can take off from her job, has the resources to drive 200 miles, to stay in a hotel, to go and take on all of these obstacles that have been added by a total paucity of care. And that's the case in far too many states, whereas a woman of a different background is unable to, and this disproportionately affects women of color, this disproportionately affects poor women, and fundamentally is about who is able to make choices about their financial futures. So I don't think that we can talk about a progressive movement. Frankly, I don't think we can talk about building a truer, more equitable democracy without total, real access to reproductive rights.
And I have one more question. Unfortunately, we only have about 1 more minute for this, but John and I both saw an email you tweeted out yesterday, and I wondered, how do you separate yourself from negativity, almost abuse that you get on the internet and still are able to log on and do the work you do?
Yeah, it's really hard, and I struggle with deciding whether I should post those things, but the thing that I can't do is just stomach it, because it does affect me. It affects my energy, it affects my psyche, and my brain is my work. I'm a freelance journalist, and I have to come up with ideas. That is how I make my money, that is how I pay my rent, and all of that kind of hate, it affects me, and it makes it harder for me to do my job. So I try my best to compartmentalize it, to understand that it's an effort to dehumanize me. And I also lean into the positive. I think that something that is amazing is what my inbox looks like today after I shared that. There are so many messages, actually over 100, of people saying, hey, I just wanted to let you know, here's some light. I care about you. I love your work. This is what your work has done for me. Here's a picture of my dog. Here's a Starbucks gift card. And I think that is so powerful, because at its core, what trolling is basically denying that I'm a human. It's forgetting that I'm a human and forgetting that I'm a person with a beating heart. And for people to go out of their way and say, hey, I see you. I know that whether I agree with you or not, that you are a human being, that to me is more powerful and totally keeps me going.
Yeah, those messages, and I've seen at other times you've posted them, absolutely horrendous, and obviously I'm sure you know this, their hatred for you is derived from their fear of what you represent. They don't. If you were a terrible messenger for your positions, they would disregard you. They wouldn't care. But obviously they're worried about you.
Chris Kalizza gets a lot of hate mail.
What's that?
I said I doubt Chris Kalizza gets much hate.
Oh man, okay. Man, I didn't think we'd get in one of those on the show, but thank you. Thank you for your advocacy on this issue. If people want to see more of your work, they should go to Teen Vogue, your column, Thigh High Politics, and they should definitely follow you on Twitter as well, by the way.
Thank you.
Thank you, glad to have you on. Thank you very much for watching this clip from The Damage Report. If you liked it, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and ring the bell on YouTube to get notifications of our new videos. And of course, you can catch the full Damage Report live every weekday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific on TYT Network on YouTube TV.